few pages. Here we go. Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, January the 26th, 2022. Like I said before, it's hard to imagine, really. For those of us that have been around a good little while, time really moves on, does it not? And it's 2022. It's just hard to imagine. Nevertheless, which is way more tragic in every way, but we've lost another 29 West Virginians. I ask you to join with me in prayer and thoughts and loving, pass-ons in every way to these people because we've lost a lot of great people in West Virginia. Now we're up to 5,674 people, but the 5,646th death is the 53-year-old male from Nicholas County. The 5,647th death, a 54-year-old male from Preston County. The 5,648th death, an 80-year-old female from Jefferson County. The 5,649th death, a 63-year-old female from Barber County. The 5,650th death, an 86-year-old female from Preston County. The 5,651st death, a 48-year-old male from Mercer County. The 5,652nd death, a 78-year-old male from Barber County. The 5,653rd death, an 86-year-old female from Boone County. The 5,654th death, a 74-year-old male from Lincoln County. The 5,655th death, a 67-year-old male from Cabell County. The 5,656th death, a 65-year-old male from Kanawha County. The 5,657th death, a 90-year-old female from Cabell County. The 5,658th death, a 70-year-old female from Mercer County. The 5,659th death, a 62-year-old female from Fayette County. The 5,660th death, a 74-year-old male from Mercer County. The 5,661st death, an 86-year-old female from Braxton County. The 5,662nd death, a 79-year-old male from Cabell County. The 5,663rd death, an 80-year-old female from Ritchie County. The 5,664th death, a 59-year-old female from Wood County. The 5,665th death, a 74-year-old male from Lincoln County. The 5,666th death, a 66-year-old female from Mercer County. The 5,667th death, an 84-year-old male from Putnam County. The 5,668th death, a 65-year-old female from Lincoln County. The 5,669th death, a 77-year-old male from Berkeley County. The 5,670th death, a 75-year-old female from Wetzel County. The 5,671st death, the 5,671st death, a 71-year-old male from Harrison County. The 5,672nd death, a 91-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 5,673rd death, an 86-year-old female from Ohio County. And the 5,674th death in West Virginia, a 66-year-old male from Barber County. A lot of wisdom, a lot of folks we've lost. I think the youngest of all these today was a 48-year-old male from Mercer County. My. We have 18,149 active cases in West Virginia and 4,003 new cases within the last 24 hours. Our daily positivity rate is at 22.01%, and our cumulative positive rate is at 7.85. We do have 405 plus people, 405,193 people that have recovered from this in West Virginia. But get this, we are now above 1,000 that are hospitalized. 1,009 are hospitalized. 218 are in the ICU units, and 115 of those patients are on ventilators. Overwhelmingly, the majority of those folks that are in the hospitals and or sick and on ventilators or in the ICU units are unvaccinated. But we are making a little progress, with the color codes across our state. We've dropped some of the red counties, and you can see over in, I guess, the eastern central part of the state, we've got at least an area there that we're making some progress, and way out in the eastern panhandle as well, and the northern panhandle. So a little progress. We'll take a little. Here's a really important announcement. The FDA announced on Monday that it is no longer permitting the use of two major monoclonal antibody treatments. And there's two of the antibodies that they are no longer, allowing, from the standpoint that they think the antibodies, in fighting this Omicron variant have not been very effective. And Dr. Marsh and General Hoyer can give you a whole lot more in detail stuff about that, and they'll be doing that in just a few moments. I thank our National Guard again now, as of this morning, and I'm sure that this is going to be updated by General Hoyer as it's been every day, but my sheet says 206. Guards members have been deployed, and at 26 different facilities. That's probably even a little higher than that. But we thank them. I don't know how we could have done without them. That's all there is to it. And in fact, I know we couldn't have done without them. But we really do thank them, and they've done great, great work. The Biden administration is offering every household in America 4 free, at-home COVID tests. And you can get these at covidtest.gov. If you'll go on our website, you can see where to get them. There's also free N95 masks that are available out there, and the White House said that these will become available, or these will be made available to pharmacies and the community health centers, and they should be able to get them later this week or first of next week. I remind you again about your 65 and older. Just think what happened to me. Immediately, I got tested. I was positive and everything. We moved forward and everything. Catching this at an early stage is always really valuable to all of us. I encourage you about wearing your face mask. If you go out in a crowd of people indoors that you don't know, and you're 65 and older, and you have any compromising, situations, absolutely, it's probably a really good idea to think about that face mask. Here's the thing I keep preaching over and over. I don't see how in the world, again and again and again, I've said, if you've been fully vaccinated, you've gotten 2 shots of Moderna, 2 shots of Pfizer, 1 shot of J&J, and you're out 6 months from when you got that last shot, you have no immunities. And how in the world you could not run to the fire and get that booster shot, I just don't get it. I don't understand. So please consider getting that done and getting across the finish line on that, because we want you protected. We don't want our hospitals overrun, and we're right at the brink right now, but absolutely we need you protected, because we want you here with us for a long, long time to come. Numbers haven't changed much, still eking up just a little bit. We're at 70.7% now of those that are 18 and above that have received at least 1 shot, and 82.3 of the 50 above, and 89.6 of 65 and above. Young people, I say it over and over, parents, grandparents, help me get the young people across the finish line. We need more and more of them vaccinated. All the information on the vaccine info line is up. I encourage you on the free testing, take advantage. I always thank Fruth and Walgreens for all that they've done. We got 155 outbreaks in our long-term care facilities, 1 outbreak in our church community. We do have 667 inmate cases at 27 different facilities and 209 staff cases in corrections. I'll promise you our people are on it in every way, and I hope and pray that we'll get that turned the other way immediately and things will start coming down. I encourage you about taking the flu shot. You can do it at the same time you take the COVID vaccine. I encourage you, if you're a renter or a landlord, to contact us and see if you qualify for these dollars and everything. We'd love to get them in your hands if we can. I encourage you over and over about giving blood. It's really, really, really important. Please take advantage and help us in every way. The Red Cross needs you right now, and they need you badly. There's a lot of folks out there that can really, really use your help. Now, check with your physician and make sure it's okay, but if it's okay and you're good to go, please think about that. I'm going to give my State of the State address at 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and encourage everybody to tune in and everything. There's going to be some more exciting announcements, but you know, I don't know how we'll trump the ones that we already came out with and everything, but nevertheless, I'd surely welcome you to tune in, and I'll be doing the best that I can do, and hopefully we'll be bringing more and more good news to West Virginia. And the last thing I've got is a big, giant congratulations. We got a basketball coach that I can remember her playing basketball just like it was yesterday, you know, and that's Coach Stevens. It's at Glenville State. Glenville State's women's basketball program is now ranked, and I love it. I love it to death when I can announce something from West Virginia that we're ranked first in the nation. Glenville State's women's basketball program is now ranked first in the nation. They were ranked third. They jumped 2 spots. They have never been ranked number 1 in the nation in the history of the school. They're 16-0 under Kim Stevens as their head coach, and I congratulate them in every way in the world. You know, I had a little kid that played basketball for me a couple years ago. She's a wonderful, wonderful young lady, and her dad is on my detail. Her dad's name is David Hill, but Autumn Hill, you know, played a little bit of basketball at Glenville State and everything, developed a few little health issues or significant health issues, but she loved it, and she just thought it was just great. And so I congratulate all these beautiful young ladies, I'm sure, that are playing, you know, for Glenville State. And more than anything, I congratulate their coach. I congratulate, you know, Mark Maynard or Manchin rather, and all the great stuff that he's done, you know, since he took the helm as president of that school and everything. But it is a wonderful school, and I couldn't be happier for them. I mean, that's great stuff. So, Lady Pioneers, you just keep doing it and make us proud. You already made us really proud, but even make us prouder. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Governor. Let's now go to Dr. Clay Marsh, our coronavirus czar.
Good morning, and re-emphasizing a few of the points the governor's made, we are seeing the continued growth of the Omicron variant in West Virginia. And the governor talked about monoclonal antibodies. And let me just review where we are related to our next generation sequencing of the positive viruses. We test about 10% of the positive PCR tests in West Virginia on a weekly basis, which is somewhere around 370 to 390 samples every week. And on December 13th, we found that there was no Omicron virus detected in those positive samples, and 100% were Delta. The week of the Christmas vacation on 12/25, we found 3.2% of the samples were Omicron, the rest Delta. On 12/29, 16% Omicron, 84% Delta. On 1/7, we found that about 50% of the state was Omicron. On 1/15, 82% Omicron, 1/24, 94% Omicron. In the US, Omicron accounts for almost all of the new cases now. And because of that characteristic, the federal government has found through research through the CDC and other investigators that these antibodies are very specific to spike proteins on the virus. And the Omicron variant has a whole number of mutations in these spike proteins, over 30, that cause these spike proteins to fold differently. And the Regeneron antibodies, which is the antibody that President Trump took, and the Lilly antibody don't have the same beneficial activity against Omicron because of these mutations in the spike proteins. The one antibody that does is produced by GlaxoSmithKline. It's called sotrovimab. And so what the government has decided, and what we would agree with based on all of the research, that the Regeneron and the Lilly antibodies that were good against the Delta variant are not effective against the Omicron variant. And so they stopped approving those for use for the Omicron variant because they don't work. And now we are really focused on the sotrovimab, which is the new antibody that does bind with enough binding power that it can still benefit people who have Omicron. And that's indeed what we are giving now as the monoclonal antibody of choice in West Virginia and around the country. We also have the oral pill, the Paxlovid, which is the pill from Pfizer, the molnupiravir, the pill from Merck, and also the remdesivir, which is a drug that can be given on 3 consecutive days. And all these treatments that we have against Omicron are highly effective and reduces the risk of hospitalizations in people who are testing positive, who do have risk factors because of age or coexisting medical problems or lack of an immune system that responds well, people that are immunocompromised. Also, it's important for us to recognize that we just surpassed the 7-day rolling average death toll per day with Omicron from Delta. And as people have said, that on a person-by-person basis, Omicron is less deadly than Delta is, and that's been shown in research studies. About 9 people, I think, out of 100,000 infected die of Omicron, and 12 people died of Delta, or 16 people died of Delta, and 12 people died of Delta, and 16 people died before the vaccines were available of some of those variants when we had the highest peak. But it's important to recognize that our hospital numbers are still very high. The governor reported that remember our all-time high was 1,012. In yesterday's numbers, we had 1,009. Today's numbers just came out, and we're now up to 1,043 people in West Virginia hospital beds. So we have now surpassed our all-time high. And as the governor said, even though our cases look like they may be starting to plateau, we know that our percent positive rate is still very high, still over 20% positive. So we are still believing that we are still watching some of the growth of the Omicron variant spread in West Virginia. Our hospitals are full, and in the US, our death rates have now exceeded the death rates on an average daily basis of what we saw during Delta, most likely because of the really great numbers of people that are hospitalized. Really important that people recognize new data from the CDC would say that your risk of dying from Omicron is 100 times higher if you are unvaccinated versus if you're fully vaccinated and boosted. And data from Israel demonstrates that if you're fully vaccinated and boosted, you also have a lower risk of long COVID symptoms related to infections with Omicron. So the data is very clear. We talked about it that last press brief. I won't rehash it, but your risk of being hospitalized is substantially diminished 50 times or so if you're over 65 and 44 times if you're over 50. Your risk of dying is over 100 times less if you're fully vaccinated and boosted. And we know that Omicron is now responsible for basically all of our new infections as well as that in the country. And we know that this is spreading very rapidly and leading to hospital numbers that have now exceeded any hospital numbers that we've seen at any other time in the pandemic. Time to choose vaccination for you and your family and your children. Time for us to pull the rope together and run to the fire. Make sure you get your boosters if you're eligible, and please consider wearing a high quality mask if you're inside, because we cannot surge the hospitals, and we have to really focus as an entire state on trying to protect that valuable asset so we protect the health of the citizens of this great state. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Marsh. Next, we'll hear from retired Major General Jim Hoyer, the director of our Joint Interagency Task Force.
Good morning. As the governor pointed out, we had a couple of updates as the press conference started. Dr. Marsh highlighted the 1,043 hospitalizations. In addition, National Guard requests are now 29 facilities, one of those being a long-term care facility, 214 guardsmen, and there are discussions going on now during the press conference with other facilities for requested support. So we'll continue to keep you updated. And as the governor pointed out, we appreciate the great work of the National Guard in being flexible and responding to these needs quickly. Also highlight that, as the governor pointed out, we have got to get particularly our 50 and above population booster doses. 50 and above is only 51% on our boosters, 65 and above only 56.6%. As Dr. Marsh pointed out, it's critical to that, as well as vaccinations in general. We know as of today, 92% of the people on ventilators in our hospitals, who many tend not to come out of that ventilator situation, 92% of those individuals are unvaccinated West Virginians. So we've really got to press vaccinations. Also, a quick update, there had been some discussion yesterday and some concern that we were pulling antibodies out of locations. That is not accurate. As Dr. Marsh and the governor pointed out, there is now 2 of the antibodies that we are no longer able to use because they do not work effectively on the Omicron variant, which is the most significant variant that we have now, as Dr. Marsh pointed out. The Sotrovimab we do have, and we get 312 units of that. Just to put it in perspective, the ideal number for West Virginia would be 1,000, but because of the supply chain issues, we get 312. Although we are out of 66 jurisdictions that receive antibody and antivirals, we are about 22nd or 26th, depending on the week in allocation. So we are getting, based on the supply chain availability, more than our fair share of the amount, but it is not quite enough, clearly based on the numbers. Also, we do have Paxlovid available, although as Dr. Marsh, Dr. Amjad would tell you, there are challenges with prescribing that because of contraindications. But again, we are continually pressing to get additional antibody and antiviral treatments and making them available in more locations across the state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Amjad and Secretary Bill Crouch are also joining us today and are available for questions. We'll now go to questions from members of the media. The first today from Kenny Bass with WCHS and Fox 11.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for taking the question. Dr. Marsh, how high is that number going to go in hospitalizations? I know you guys have a pretty good feel for it, either you or General Hoyer, from doing your tabletop exercises and seeing where the number of infections are going. What did the numbers tell you about hospitalizations in the next few weeks? Thank you.
Dr. Marsh.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Kenny. You know, to believe that we can project an exact number is probably foolhardy, Kenny. But what we know is that there is a delay between when cases peak and plateau and start to come down, and then following that, about 5 to maybe 10 to 14 days, we see then a peak of hospitalizations. Then in the following week or so, we'll see the severity of the illness start to go up, and then we'll see deaths as the last indicator. But given the growth that we've seen, even though we know that the Omicron variant from data from the CDC leads to shorter hospital stays on average than Delta, kills on average fewer people, and requires fewer hospitalizations than the great number of cases, we are very, very worried that our hospital numbers have not come close to peaking yet. And we are trying to do all we can to reduce that surge. But that's why we call on all of our citizens right now to please make sure that you're vaccinated and boosted, including our children who are our future. And we know that this pandemic and this virus, the Omicron variant, does impact children as well. And although most children will be okay and get better from this infection, we know that there's a group of children that may get very, very sick from this. So right now, really, really important for people to take extra precautions, because we are seeing a surge on our hospitals greater than we've ever seen before. And that is a big, big concern to all of us on the leadership team.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Next, we'll go to Charles Young with West Virginia News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. According to DHHR's numbers, we only gave 218 vaccines statewide yesterday. Given that low number and the fact that the hospitals are under such strain, has there been any discussion of scaling back the state's vaccine distribution sites and allowing those personnel to be allocated to the hospitals? Thank you.
Maybe General, maybe you can answer that, sir.
Yes, sir, Governor. So Charles, two issues there. One is there was an issue with the data feed this morning from CDC. So we think that's part of the number issue, but we have plenty of systems in place to provide vaccines to West Virginians that will take them, that do not impact the manpower that we need in our hospitals. So our pharmacies, federally qualified health clinics, community health clinics, other locations are stepping up, and our health departments and doing those vaccines. So we've got a good plan to make sure that we can still vaccinate, but not have a negative impact on the challenges that we face with staffing in our hospitals.
All right, thank you, Charles. Next to Mark Curtis with the Next Star Media.
I agree, but let me just put the phone down for just a second. Bear with me, okay? I'll be right back in 30 seconds. Governor, I have a question on a different subject today. The black lung benefits for coal miners ran out at the end of 2021. It was not extended because that big Build Back Better $3 trillion social infrastructure plan failed in Congress. Senator Manchin has introduced a bill now to extend the black lung benefits for the next 10 years, but it's not scheduled for a vote in Congress. We're talking about thousands of coal miners, their widows, their children who depend on this monthly payment. What can you say to do to urge Congress to get this thing across the finish line and get the black lung benefits back to these miners?
Well, Mark, let me just weigh in on that in as strong a way as I possibly can weigh in. Of course, my family, and as for generations, has been in the mining business, and we very proudly, have had a great relationship with the UMWA, through that time in different mining operations. But through all that, if you can't see the courage and all of the greatness that our miners have done for this nation forevermore, and we're going to turn our backs on those people from the political just jargon that goes on in Washington, D.C., it is just terrible beyond belief. And I hope and pray that the net result of all this, it will all shake out and it will get taken care of. But I'll promise you, we've got a lot of families in West Virginia that are unnecessarily scared to death and worried and feel like they're being abandoned and absolutely not appreciated in any way. Now, all I can do is bombard the Washington airways in every way I possibly can to encourage us to do the right thing, to take care of the people that have absolutely taken care of us in so many ways with courage and expertise and craftsmanship like nobody's business. I know the miners, trust me, in every way. And these are people that don't just ask for stuff. They are truly, truly heroes, and we need to take care of them. And that's not just grandstanding anyway. That's just expressing my heart and how I feel about these great people, because they are true, true heroes. So, Mark, we're working it, and surely to God above, we're not going to let this happen, And so, you have to think that at some point in time, cool heads and the political just crap will stop. But hopefully we'll get this worked out.
All right, thank you, Mark. Next to Evan Bevins with the Parkersburg News and Sentinel.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to General Hoyer. You mentioned the antibodies that are available, a couple of different treatments, and wanted to see if you could elaborate on that. If the 312 number is weekly, and just to explain a little bit about how that reception and distribution works.
Please, sir.
Yes, sir, Governor. So the 312 is weekly. It is distributed across the state based on orders from hospitals and other facilities. And we also, on several occasions, when one area of the state needed additional and we had it available in other locations, we have a plan to, when available, to cross-load that. And as mentioned, Paxlovid, the antiviral, is available in a number of locations across the state, including pharmacies, and is right now available. But as Dr. Marsh and Dr. Amjad would point out, there are significant challenges with contraindications for people who take other medication. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan. Next to Paul Mullen with WCBC.
Good morning, Governor. Good morning, everyone. I want to go with Dr. Amjad on this one. There are people that have decided for whatever reason that they will not get the vaccine. Is there other things they can do health-wise, vitamins, supplements, whatever, to give them a little bit better protection against COVID-19, or maybe a severe attack of that? Can you enlighten us, Doctor? Thank you.
Dr. Amjad, please go.
Yes, Governor. Paul, I would say no to be a simple answer. I mean, I'll tell you what people have told me that they're doing and what I've read and things, but some people will say, you know, they'll take a lot of vitamins, they'll take a lot of, and these are not wrong things to do. You can take zinc oxide, a lot of vitamin C, a lot of prenatal vitamins, and those things are healthy to do, but keep in mind you can overtake vitamins too and have a lot of abnormal side effects. But vaccines right now, especially with COVID, they are helping you stay out of the hospital. And I know a lot of people that don't want to take the vaccine, especially with, you know, having to take another booster shot and they think it's not working. But I've told people right now who don't want to take the vaccine that it's like wearing a raincoat right now, that it's going to keep you dry, especially right now that COVID is out there and it's, you know, just hammering us down and going to keep you dry. But there isn't anything right now that's going to work better than the vaccine. So you can take all the vitamins you want, but it's really not going to help you right now. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Paul. Governor, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, let me just look just 1 second at my notes here, but you know, I just want to quote a couple of things that have just come up, and that is I think Dr. Marsh said that your risk of dying with the Omicron virus is 100 times greater than if you're unvaccinated. Your risk of dying from the Omicron virus is 100 times greater if you've been unvaccinated. Now just think about that. I mean, really and truly, that's again, the best guy that I can possibly have, or best human, best lady, best guy that I can possibly have as our coronavirus czar. Now, let me just add one other thing. You know, you may think really hard about one thing. I have a lot of people ask me this question over and over and over. They say, Governor, what do you really think is going to happen? What's really going to happen to us? And I'm going to tell you as bluntly as I can possibly tell you, because we've always been 100% transparent, have we not? I'm going to tell you that truly no one really knows. But I can tell you just this. If we'll step back from it and assess it, And we'll say, well, let's just look at if it went really bad or if it went okay. Well, the really bad could be just this. The really bad could be some spin-off of variant to this virus, which we absolutely believe is going to happen. There's going to be continual spin-offs of this variant. You know, whether it be Omicron CD or it be Delta, Omicron combined together, and we give it another name, you know, but there is absolutely going to be spin-offs. Now, when this happens, we hope and pray that the spin-off is going to be milder. But just what if it weren't, it didn't end up milder? And if that be the case, then it could be pretty tough. And we all know that. Now, we also know that you've got 100 times greater chance of being okay and not dying from Omicron if you're vaccinated. Now, this sounds like it's going to be another spill to, you know, encourage you to get vaccinated. I really believe in my heart that we're not through this yet. And I believe we've got to live with this. And I believe that we do not need to be mandating and shoving things down people's throat and everything and making them, or trying to make them get vaccinated or whatever it may be. And I believe we should absolutely be continuing to respect everybody. But I also believe that that we would all be foolish to not think that we ought to still remain, concerned. So with all that, I would just say just this. How does it make good sense? We have 82% of our 50 and older people that have been completely vaccinated. 82% of them, and we've got 51% of them that have taken their booster shot. Now tell me how that makes sense. We have 82% of them that were completely vaccinated and 51% of them that have taken the booster shot. I don't see how that makes sense. We absolutely have 90% of our 65 and olders that are fully vaccinated, and 56.6% of those have taken their booster. In both cases, you're looming from 30 to 35% of the people have not acted and taken their booster shot. I don't get that. And the other thing, we know without any doubt that we've got over 1,000 people hospitalized right now in our West Virginia hospitals. And we know we've got 200 to 250 guardsmen that are out there trying to do the job because we can't staff our hospitals today because we're just overrun. We know that this thing could get better, and it surely could get worse. And I only say to you just this. We also know without any question that we could really slow this thing down if we had all run out there and really think really hard about more of a percentage of us getting vaccinated. We know that. So I don't want you to think that I'm on some soapbox, campaigning for the vaccines, but I'm just telling you, look at the numbers. Now, from the standpoint of one other thing, I really mean this. We've made a lot of right decisions here. We've made decisions that, to be perfectly honest, we've taken the best advice we can take from everybody and then went and made those decisions. But there's no question in my mind that there has been God's presence in those decisions, because we could have never made all those decisions on our own. There's no way. There's no way. So I continue to ask Him for assistance and help in making these decisions. I continue to tell you just the truth. We do not want this thing to get bad again to where it's infecting our children or whatever it may be, or our elderly, and we've got a run on the bank, you know, with all kinds of issues going on with our hospitals and everything. We don't want another surge. And absolutely, we pray in every way that this thing is going to pass. And we know in every way we've got to live with it. We've got to live with it. We can't shut down. We can't do that anymore. We cannot do that anymore. So with all this and everything, I would just tell you the only thing that I know that we've got, the only thing I know we've got is the fact that if more of us were vaccinated, the less would die. And so please just consider that. And, you know, I've only gone into this because so many people keep coming up to me and say, well, Governor, what's going to happen? What's going to happen here? What's going to happen? Is this going to get even worse? Is this going to get worse? You know, what's going to happen? Well, it would be frivolous for anybody to say they know because they don't know. There's no playbook. They do not know. You know, and so with all that, all we can do is keep telling you the truth and hope and pray that the really smart people, the scientists, the medical community and everything is going to get us through this with the help, first and foremost, of God above. So I'm going to keep trying to come to you, and I'm going to keep trying to do everything I can in every way to just represent the truth and be transparent. So again, I would deeply, deeply encourage the people that are 50 and older, you know, to really get those booster shots, because that is really, really, really important. We continue to do all the tabletop exercises and everything else, but at the end of the day, this thing continues to turn and twist and everything. In my opinion, nobody knows the answer. So we'll keep telling you everything that we know. Thank you so much.
Senate will come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Those in the gallery and those on the floor will please rise as we're led in prayer by Pastor Jerry Bias of the Madison United Methodist Church in Madison, West Virginia. Please remain standing after the prayer as the senator from Brooke leads us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Thank you. Would you bow your heads as we pray? Almighty God, as we bow in your presence here this morning, we ask for your presence and your wisdom to touch each and every man and woman here. They've been envisioned, God, with a respect of their peers as they voted them in to represent them here at the Senate. We know, God, that sometimes things can be tough, and sometimes people's efforts go unheard or unrewarded. We pray, God, that you will continue, regardless of the effort that seems to be lacking in your recipients. Sometimes you're doing your very best, and that's all anyone can do. Your best is different to my best. We ask you, God, to bless the efforts of all the work that they'll have to do. There's always more problems, it seems, than there are solutions. There's always things that can be done, but there's not enough funds. We ask you, God, to help these men and women because their job is hard. Their job is very hard, and sometimes it's very lonely. We ask you, God, to bless these men and women as they come and they do their best to help lead our great state that we're so proud of, that you would help them to have a heart of compromise, a heart of common sense, and a heart of common decency and respect for those on the other side. Whether we're Republicans, Democrats, or independents, we love this state. We get knocked down a lot, we get talked about a lot by people all around us, but we're West Virginians, and the thing that really irks those people is that we always get back up. Be with these people. Bless their efforts. In the name of Christ our Lord, I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the members and the guests in the gallery join me in saying the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Senator from Randolph.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent to waive Rule 54, Senate Rule 54 for the day related to allowing guests on the floor of the Senate.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Reading of the Journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, January 25th, 2022. The Senate met at 11:01 a.m. Senator Blair, Mr. President in the chair.
The senator from Summers requests unanimous consent that further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and the Journal be approved. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Further reading of the Journal is dispensed with and the Journal is approved. Introduction and guest. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages of the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guest of the senator from Randolph, Seth Carnes and Asa Carnes. As guest is the senator from Raleigh, Garrett Foran. And as guest is the senator from Greenbrier, Lanier Fussell and Zeb Reinhardt. Will the Senate please make our pages feel welcome? Further introductions. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the rear gallery with us today, we have the Curry family, which is, if they'd please stand. Is the Curry family back there? Yeah, I'll ask the Senate to help me make them welcome here in just a second. The Curry family is Dana, Sarah, and their 3 boys, Cole, Connor, and Isaac. And they're here for West Virginia Homeschool Day. And here at the appropriate time, following our debates on the floor, and remarks by members, I'll have some things to say about them and what homeschooling has meant to them and their children. And just in lieu of the proclamations we usually do on the floor, just because of the COVID protocols changing things a bit. So we're going to honor them this way. So thank you, Mr. President. Welcome.
Further introduction, Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf of the senator from Summers, and on behalf of our caucus, we are very privileged to have with us today former senator, former chair of judiciary, former whip, the most reasonable guy in the room, Corey Palumbo. Will the Senate please make him welcome? Thank you, Mr. President. Also, Zeb's mom, Adina Joy, is with him here today. If she'll please stand, and will the Senate make her welcome?
Senator from Upshur.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senator from Randolph and me, I would like to introduce 2 people, Melody Shepard and Amy Carnes. Amy is the mother of our 2 pages today, and of course the wife of Senator. Thank you for.
Further introductions. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Today, we're honored to have the George Washington High School golf team in the rear gallery. And so on behalf of myself, the senior senator from the 17th, and the senior and the junior senator from the 8th, I'd like to take a little time to introduce these fine individuals. And they were the first ones to really have a picture here in the chamber in the last 2 years, so we're glad to have them. But if you all would stand, and then I'll go through and make the introductions. Mario Palumbo, who happens to be the son of our former senator, Anderson Goldman, Austin Willard, Sam Alderman, Nick Tomlin, Ethan Wiley, Connor Bean, Ethan Hill, Will Isaac, Hudson Ramo, Hutch Love, Scarlett Albertson, Wyatt Albertson, Kiera Bartoli, Sherman Linenberg, Austin Morris, Brandon Anderson, Joaquin Famulacarno, I hope I got that right, and apologize if I didn't, Crawford Goldman, Sarah Schaefer, and the coaches BJ Calabrese, as well as Joe Giles, and then again, we have the former senator with us in the back of the chamber, but if the members would please join me in welcoming the GW High School golf team that won last year's state championship.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seated in our North Gallery, we have Pete Scalzo and Tom Wilson. They're from Florida, and they're here looking at potential economic development in West Virginia. They've got some projects going on across the nation. Senate, please join me and make them welcome.
Senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our Paige Garrett Foran's mother is in the President's Gallery, Teresa Dennison. If you would please stand and the Senate make her feel welcome.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Mr. President, I've got one more introduction. Seated in the President's Gallery, we have Heidi Rice and her 3 kids, Tristan, Harley, and Dakota, and they're here for Homeschool Day. Senate, please join me and make them welcome.
Further introductions. Pursuant to special rule of order adopted on January 18, 2022, the chair announces that the senator from Marshall has been approved to vote by proxy and has designated the senior senator from the 17th to vote on his behalf. Communications from the House.
The clerk of the House announced the House changed the effective date only as it relates to Senate Bill 191, allowing poll workers to work full and half days.
Must be received, senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate concur in the House changed. I move the Senate concur in the changed effective date.
Senior senator from the 17th moves that the Senate concur in the House change effective date for Senate Bill 191. Is there discussion? Senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. The House merely changed the effective date on the bill, making it effective from passage. I urge we adopt.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question for the Senate concur on the House changed effective date for Senate Bill 191. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the motion adopted. Senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage.
Senior senator from the 17th moves the bill be made effective from passage. All those in favor vote yes. Vote yea. Those will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior senator from the 17th, how does the senator from Marshall vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Marshall votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine to ascertain the results. On this question, 31 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absent, not voting. More than 2/3 of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
The clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of committee substitute for House Bill 2177, permitting the issuance of a state-issued identification card without a photo on the card under certain conditions.
Message be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
House Bill 2325, removing the requirement of continuing education for barbers and cosmetologists.
Message be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3220, restrictions on taxpayer-funded lobbying.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3231, public utilities not required to pay interest on security deposits.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for House Bill 3312, establishing a memorial to child labor and child workers who died in the course of employment in this state.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4062, removing the residency requirement for the Commissioner of the Division of Highways.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4065, allowing the Division of Natural Resources to teach hunter safety courses in school.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4074, requiring schools provide eating disorder and self-harm training for teacher and students.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Education, then the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4112, provide consumers a choice for pharmacy services.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4113, public health definitions and power of Secretary and Commissioner.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Communications from the Executive.
There are none.
Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Bill 151, creating license plate recognizing linemen, and reports back to committee substitute for same, and Senate Bill 192, establishing Civil Air Patrol license plates, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the two committee substitutes do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
The report be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 219, relating to nutrition and exercise education, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Roland A. Roberts, Chair, Vice Chair.
The report be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 261, requiring video cameras in certain special education classrooms, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Roland A. Roberts, Vice Chair.
Report be received.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 279, DEP rule relating to ambient air quality standards, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report be received.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Bill 423, establishing limited exemption to photo ID requirements, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
The report be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 433, relating to municipal fire departments, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
The report be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 441, providing confidentiality of video and other records of correctional juvenile facilities, and reports back committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 448, developing policies and procedures for statewide interoperability executive committee, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
The report be received and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining has had under consideration Senate Bill 461, removing statutory limit for Environmental Laboratory Certification Fund, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Randy E. Smith, Chair.
Report will be received, and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Energy, Industry, and Mining has had under consideration Senate Bill 462, changing fees for permitting actions related to coal mining, and reports the same back with recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Randy E. Smith, Chair.
Report will be received, and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 467, creating West Virginia Motorsports Entertainment Complex Investment Act, and reports the same back without recommendation as to passage, but with the recommendation that it first be referred to the Committee on Economic Development, and then under the original double committee reference to the Committee on Finance. Respectfully submitted, Roland A. Roberts, Vice Chair.
Report will be received. Senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the bill be referred to the Committee on Economic Development prior to its original second committee reference.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Economic Development and then the Committee to Finance.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 9, naming the Haney Family Veterans Memorial Bridge, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 15, naming the U.S. Army Private Shirley E. Bailey Memorial Bridge, and reports the same back with recommendation that they each be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
The report be received.
Your Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure has had under consideration Senate Concurrent Resolution 11, naming the Dennis E. Davis Veterans Nursing Home, and reports the same back with the recommendation, and Senate Concurrent Resolution 13, naming the U.S. Army Private First Class Joseph Stanley McKinney Memorial Bridge, and reports the same back with the recommendation that the two committee substitutes be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Charles H. Clements, Chair.
The report be received. Senior Senator from the 17th.
President, I request unanimous consent to return to the second order of business.
Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President. And the excitement to see my GW golf team up there, I whiffed and forgot a very important introduction. It is on behalf of the Senate. It is your pleasure and mine to introduce our doc for the day. I'm going to have to take a mulligan. Dr. Rutman Desagus, if you wouldn't mind standing, let the Senate give you a warm welcome. Thank you.
Further introductions. Senator from Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. President. It slipped my mind also. My daughter-in-law, Beth, is in the hospital as we speak, having our 8th grandchild. And my other children are watching their pappy on the internet today. So I wanted to do a shout out to them. And they are one of my older granddaughters, Gracie, who is watching him right now. And there's Abriana, Elijah, Isaac, and Willow is staying at our house while their mother are bringing home their little brother, baby brother. So I would just want if the members would make them welcome. Thank you.
Further introductions. Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bill. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 487 through Senate Bill 492 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
Senior Senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that Senate Bill 487 through Senate Bills 492 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 22 by Senator Grady, naming the U.S. Army Private First Class Clifford O. Eckerd Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 23 by Senator Stallings, naming the U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Guy Maywood Edwards Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 24 by Senator Stallings, naming the U.S. Marine Corps Corporal Roger Lee Booth Memorial Road.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day. Motions. Petitions.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 19, naming the U.S. Army Private Thomas D. Beckett Sr. Memorial Bridge.
Resolution will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 20, naming the U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Robert J. Hill Memorial Road.
The resolution will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 21, naming the Putnam County Veterans Memorial Bridge.
Resolution will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure.
Senate Resolution 14, congratulating George Washington High School Patriots boys golf team for winning the 2021 Class AAA state championship.
Junior Senator from the 17th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, that the committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put up for its adoption.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 14, congratulating the George Washington High School Patriots golf team for winning the 2021 Class AAA state championship.
Question is on adoption of the resolution. Senior Senator from the 17th. Excuse me, Junior Senator.
I got a promotion.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, thank the members for earlier joining in welcoming the GW golf team. But this resolution was meant to recognize the George Washington High School's golf team for their 2021 AAA golf championship. This is the fourth one that the George Washington golf team has earned in its history. Of particular interest also is to recognize Mario Palumbo for his winning the regional medalist. The winning team that was coached by B.J. Calabrese, the members were Austin Willard, Anderson Goldman, Mario Palumbo, Nick Tomlin, and Sam Alderman. It's quite a significant accomplishment to win a state championship, but especially in these last couple of years. But please join me in approving Senate Resolution, or adopting Senate Resolution 14. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. Bill's on third reading.
Engrossed Senate Bill 1, creating Mining Mutual Insurance Company. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill would create a mining mutual insurance company. This company would be established and operated in a very similar fashion as the Physicians Mutual, which was created in 2001 to address issues with medical liability crisis. This would assist coal companies during an economic downturn in the coal industry to comply with Surface Mining Reclamation Act. The bill authorizes the creation of the Mining Mutual Insurance Company as a domestic corporation. The newly created entity is specifically precluded from being an entity of the state. As such, its funds are not considered state funds, and it is subject to the collection of premium taxes. The bill provides for the governance of the corporation. It is initially governed by a provisional board. Members of the provisional board are selected by the governor, who selects the chair, the Secretary of Department of Environmental Protection, the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, and the Insurance Commissioner. Qualifications for selection are included in the bill. Once the articles of incorporation and bylaws are adopted, directors would be chosen in accordance with those articles and bylaws. The corporate charter and bylaws are required to be filed with the Insurance Commissioner. The company is also required to apply for a license with the Insurance Commissioner. The bill permits a licensed insurer, health services plan, insurance service organization, third-party administrator, brokerage firm, or other suitable firm to administer some or all of the business of the company. The insurance commissioner is given the authority to set the initial capital and surplus requirements for the company. The insurance commissioner is also given the authority to waive requirements of other mutual insurance companies to enable the company to begin issuing performance bonds. He or she may also monitor the company for economic viability. A special revenue account is created to enable the operation of the company. The treasurer, with the cooperation of the Secretary of Department of Environmental Protection, is required to deposit $50 million into the account, which shall ultimately be transferred to the company. These funds are non-interest bearing loan and shall be paid back as credits as reclamation activities are accomplished. The treasurer may also transfer other funds with the insurance commissioner's approval and with the cooperation of the Secretary of the DEP. Any additional funds shall also be a non-interest loan. Once granted a license, the company may issue non-assessable performance bonds and may procure non-assessable policies of performance bonds. Participation by any local coal company or operator is completely voluntary. Finally, unless they conflict with the provisions of this newly created article, all provisions of West Virginia's corporation and insurance law are applicable. Mr. President, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion?
Chair recognizes Senior Senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I told my finance chair if he did a good enough job that I wouldn't come off the chair and talk about this. This is no disrespect. You did a great job of getting into the details of the bill and what's going on. The reason I'm back here today now is to talk about why I sponsored this bill, why I believe that it is deserving of the Senate Bill 1 title on it. And I don't normally sponsor bills, so just a message to the rest of West Virginia, don't come asking me to sponsor bills. That is not my game plan here. But this bill, as I'm about to explain how important it is to the state of West Virginia, how important it is to the mining industry in West Virginia. Senate Bill 1 came about being back in late August, September, when I ended up getting a report from the legislative auditor saying that we had an $8 billion potential liability. And that's what the report said. Now, I believe that the liability is somewhere between $1 and $4 billion. There's one bonding company that services roughly 13 states. And in those 13 states, they have 60% of the reclamation bonds. And if something would happen in one of these other states and it blow up that bond company, then it puts the coal industry in the state of West Virginia at risk. This bill will actually help protect West Virginia. It'd be like an insurance policy for our mining industry. By creating this mutual, it will also protect our severance tax collections as well, and our commitment to having a baseload energy supply in this state, which coal provides. If we wouldn't do this, then it's just a roulette wheel. We have no idea what's going to happen, but this provides a voluntary, it's not mandatory, ability for our mining industry to be able to purchase these reclamation bonds and to continue providing the vital baseload energy supply that coal does. Another thing that makes me very, very comfortable with this is that, and I believe that it is going to be effective, is the gentleman that helped create the Physicians Mutual and the same gentleman that helped create Brick Street, which is now a national company that originated here in West Virginia. Both of them were extremely successful, and when the state loaned them money, they paid it back. They paid it back in record time. This bill is going to have a companion to it somewhere along the line here, where it's going to end up $50 million, and it's not going to come out of the Mine Reclamation Trust Fund. That's it. So I've read some reports out there in national news and things like that where they don't understand what's going on. But I want the mine industry to know that the commitment there is for voluntary, and it's not going to come out of that fund. And that's important, because I've read over and over where people have gotten it wrong. So the press, if you're listening right now, it's not coming out of the fund. But we will find the $50 million to be able to make this happen. It'll be a loan, and I expect it to be paid back, just like the other two mutuals that we created. So to the industry out there and the people of West Virginia, I just want them to know that we're trying to be proactive. It's a lot better posture to be in a proactive position to be able to protect the interest of the state and keep the economic development that we have going on here, propelling it forward, but protecting what we have into the past. So, Mr. President, I think I've cleared up everything from my standpoint on why this is the most important bill, because if we were sitting here looking at a $4 billion deficit, a $2 billion deficit, that we'd have to make right, that would set us back. It would set us back on the course that we've tried to the course that we're trying to set ourselves on, to becoming more than the 49th or 50th state, but to being one of the absolute best states there is in the union. And we have the potential to do that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there others wishing to speak to the bill? Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just request unanimous consent that the remarks regarding Senate Bill 1 by the Senior Senator from the 15th be placed in the appendix of the Journal.
Is there objection? So ordered.
Further discussion? If not, question is on passage. Shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall close the machine. Has every member voted? Excuse me. Senior Senator from the 17th, how does the Senator from Marshall vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator from Marshall votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and question unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent and not voting. More than 2/3 of those having been elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 334, authorizing miscellaneous agencies and boards to promulgate rules. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee substitute for Senate Bill 334 is the miscellaneous rules bundle, bundle number 9. As it came to the Judiciary Committee, it contained 68 rules, 3 of which have been removed. There were rules on telehealth that have been removed and are not part of the bundle before us now that are going to receive further attention in the Committee on the Judiciary. The bundle contains, as said, 65 rules now from 20 different agencies, departments of the executive branch. Rules that have been promulgated by the Commissioner of Agriculture, there are 14, the Board of Chiropractic Examiners, the West Virginia Contractors Licensing Board, 11 rules there, the Board of Examiners for Counseling, 4 rules there, a rule from the Dangerous Wild Animal Board, 6 rules from the Board of Dentistry, rules from the Board of Funeral Service Examiners, a rule from the Massage Therapy Licensure Board, 7 rules from the Board of Medicine, 3 rules from the Board of Osteopathic Medicine, 3 rules from the Board of Pharmacy, a rule from the Public Service Commission, rules from the Real Estate Appraiser Licensing Board, rules from the Board of Examiners for Registered Professional Nurses, 7 rules from the West Virginia Secretary of State, 2 rules from the Social Work Examiner Board, a rule from the Speech Pathology Board, and 8 different rules from the West Virginia State Treasurer. All the miscellaneous boards and commissions that form Bundle 9. Mr. President, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, I urge adoption or passage of the committee substitute.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Summers.
Mr. President, I asked for Rule 43. I'm a licensed funeral director, and we're dealing with licensing fees for funeral directors.
In opinion of the chair, you're a member of class and you're still required to vote. Okay, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Oh. Senator from Marion? I didn't think so. Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th, how does the Senator from Marshall vote?
Marshall votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine, ascertain the results on this question. 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than the majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than 2/3 of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 417 relating to authorized expenditures of revenues from certain state funds for fire departments. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 417 expands and clarifies the ways volunteer fire departments, VFDs, may use their distributions of certain state funds. For example, the bill expands the types of personal protective equipment that can be purchased with those funds and allows bottled water, food, and related items to be purchased as part of the responding to emergency. The bill also addresses commingling of restricted and unrestricted state funds. It requires all distributed state funds, including state grants, to be placed into a dedicated bank account, and then the unrestricted funds transferred out within 60 days. Funds not transferred out within 60 days become restricted in their use. Senate Bill 417 is an interim bill from the Joint Committee on VFDs and EMS. It arose out of discussions with the Legislative Auditor's Office, which audits VFD's use of distributed state funds. I'll entertain questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th, how does the Senator from Marshall vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator from Marshall votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative. I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 427, permitting West Virginia Board of Medicine investigators to carry concealed weapon. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 427 would amend our state code by adding a single new section to the code. It goes in Chapter 30, which is Boards and Professions, in Article 3, which is the Medical Practice Act, and it's a new section. It would be designated as Section 19. And the short title really explains the bill. The bill would authorize the Board of Medicine to authorize its investigators to carry firearms. And there's some requirements with that. They'd have to be persons who are permitted under federal and state law to have and possess a firearm. They'd have to have the approval of the board, and they would have to they'd have to have a concealed carry license, and they'd have to successfully complete firearms training that's required for police, generally the State Police Academy. Just so we're clear, this doesn't empower the investigators to do arrests or anything like that. It's my understanding that the purpose of this is essentially to allow them to provide for their own self-defense when they have to go in investigations into circumstances where it might be necessary or warranted for them to have to defend themselves. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, I urge the passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th. How's the Senator from Marshall vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator from Marshall votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk closes the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 436, correcting code citation for authority of State Fire Marshal. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 436 merely amends a single section of code to correct an incorrect citation to the enforcement authority of the State Fire Marshal. I'll entertain questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th, how does the Senator from Marshall vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator from Marshall votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 32 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House. Bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 246, requiring newly constructed public schools and public schools with major improvements to have water bottle filling stations. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 262, relating generally to financial institutions engaged in boycotts of energy companies. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill being engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 437, providing for early discharge of parolees. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill being engrossed and advanced to third reading. Bills on first reading. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered read a first time and advance to second reading.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Bills will be advanced. Introduction of guest. Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I see in the back of the President's Gallery we have Mingo County Commissioners Thomas Taylor, stand up Thomas, and Marty Fortner. Senate, if you will, please join me and make them welcome.
Further introductions. Remarks by members. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Going back to the introduction made this morning, if the Curry family would stand in the rear gallery up here for me, just as I got a few words to say. You know, West Virginia, to hear today at the Capitol, it's West Virginia Homeschoolers Day, and West Virginia has more than 40,000 students being homeschooled. And they're an organized group, and they've picked the Curry family as an exemplary family of the homeschoolers in West Virginia. The parents, Daniel and Sarah Curry, are of Barbersville, and they have homeschooled their 3 children, Cole, Connor, and Isaac Curry, since their elementary beginnings in schooling. This family enjoys the freedoms that the state of West Virginia has to offer homeschool parents. The Currys use this opportunity to educate their children with a well-rounded Christian faith-based education. Daniel and Sarah's personalized involvement with their schooling their children has improved opportunity to shape their young children into successful students that are involved with public events such as church services and many extracurricular activities. Homeschooling has given these parents the hands-on ability to raise and educate their children to hopefully grow into Christian adults that the parents are trying to mold them into, while academically preparing their children to meet the world's challenges and be productive citizens of this state. Sarah Curry has dedicated herself full-time to educating her children while periodically furthering her education at Heritage Christian University, where she majors in Bible studies with an emphasis in family counseling. Daniel has assisted Sarah in their children's homeschooling while maintaining employment outside the home. Daniel has served as a West Virginia State Trooper, and he recently changed careers to minister for the Main Street Church of Christ located in Hurricane. He is also an online student at Heritage Christian University and the West Virginia School of Preaching. He assists in coaching a homeschool archery group with his children called Heat Archery. The Curry family dedicates themselves to working hard at all their endeavors, including homeschooling, but most of all, the Curry family prioritizes their service to the Lord Jesus Christ. And they are definitely an exemplary family for our homeschoolers in West Virginia, and it's my honor to recognize them here on the Senate floor today. So thank you.
Further remarks. Miscellaneous business. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subject to announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Finance will meet today at 3 p.m. in room 451M. We'll have budget hearings with the Senior Services, Veterans Assistance, and the Department of Revenue.
Senator from Oregon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will also meet today at 3 o'clock p.m. in the Judiciary Committee, room 208 West Wing.
Senator from Preston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Agriculture will meet today at 1 o'clock, I believe. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. I'm sorry, I wasn't quite ready for that. In 208 West.
Could you tell us the time again? 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Further announcements. Senator from Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Economic Development will meet today at 1 p.m., 4:51 m.
Further announcements. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Pensions shall meet today at 2 p.m., and the agenda has been posted. We'll meet up in the Senate Finance, 451. Thank you.
Are there further announcements? Question for the Senate is the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.
House will please be in order. Those persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer by the lady from 32nd, Dr. Kessinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Father, we just come before you so thankful for the opportunity that we have to represent the people of West Virginia, Lord. You are such a faithful God. We thank you not just for what you do, but ultimately for who you are. Lord, when we read the word, it becomes very apparent that from page 1 until now, your heart has been to always get closer and closer and closer to us, that you want to draw near to us. And I pray, Lord, that as you want to draw near to us, that we would draw near to you. You promise that when we ask for wisdom, that you will not withhold wisdom, that when what we ask for in your name, Lord, you will grant. And so, Father, I just pray right now for every single person in this room, whether we're elected officials or whether we're staff or whether we're guests in the gallery, Lord, that you would just give us wisdom and discernment and direction, not just in the decisions that we're making here for the people of West Virginia, but well beyond and into our lives, Lord. I don't know what the situations are in each of these people's lives outside of this place, but Lord, you do. And so, Father, I just pray that where there is chaos, you would bring peace. Where there is strife, you would bring connection. And Lord, that you would comfort the brokenhearted, that you would be close to those who are feeling lonely in this season, Lord. I just thank you so much, again, Lord, not just for what you do, but for who you are. And I pray that you will lead us and guide us as we try to lead the state of West Virginia. Help us to remember that at the very root of what we do here, at the very root of who we are and our roles and our positions here, Lord, that we are, before anything else, servants. And so, Father, I just thank you for allowing us to be here, and I pray that everything we say and do would bring glory and honor to you and to your kingdom. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
All members and guests will remain standing as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance by the gentleman at 24th Doggett Bridges.
Please join me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Tuesday, January 25th, 2022.
Gentleman 51st, Doggett Williams.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read.
The gentleman 51st, Doggett Williams, asks unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? There are no objections. House will please be in order. Introductions. Gentleman 10th, Doggett Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today from Parkersburg South High School, we have a page. Kendall Marshall is here representing Parkersburg South High School. Kendall, would you stand, please, ladies and gentlemen? Put your hands together and please make her feel welcome.
Gentleman 27th, Doggett Ellington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As many of you know, today is Homeschool Day at the Capitol. Representing the West Virginia Homeschoolers for the SSAC Access are Jamie and Elsie Buckland and Bella Bradford. They're in the West Gallery. If they'd stand in the house, make them feel welcome.
Gentleman 35th, Doggett Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. We have some pages from Kanawha County. We have some Patriots and some Falcons down here. Happy to have them with us. If you would help me welcome Anna, Cameron, Kavanaugh, and Ryle Blevins back to the House after a one-year sabbatical. They were here 2 years ago. They're happy to be back, and we're happy to have them. Thank you.
Gentleman 34th, Doggett Boggs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very pleased to have paging here today from Braxton County. Homeschool student Hunter Bingaman. Hunter, if you would stand up. I've had the privilege of watching this young man grow up, and he's very proud of him. And in the West Gallery, he has his mom with him, Laura Bingaman, and also his aunt and uncle, Christine and Harley Murphy, who's a proud veteran. If you would welcome them and make them welcome to the Capitol.
Gentleman 32nd, Doggett Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegates Kessinger, Fast, and myself, we have a local business owner from Fayette County with us today, Kevin Willis in the West Gallery. If he would stand and the House would please make him feel welcome.
The lady number 13, Dr. Kraus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I'd like to point your attention to the South Gallery. I have my good friends here today. They're fellow homeschoolers, Missy Wilson and her sons Alex, Levi, and Luke. If the House could make them welcome, I'd appreciate it. Also, it is Homeschool Day at the Capitol, and our galleries are full of homeschoolers. If all of our homeschoolers and our parents could stand up and we make them all welcome today, I would appreciate it.
Lady in the 52nd, Dr. Saipo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today in the North Gallery, we have a family from Preston County. First, I would like to recognize George Street. He is here with his family. First, I would like to say that his daughter is, first of all, I'd like to say they're homeschoolers, and his daughter will be playing the violin for here today later on. Also, George is has a military background. He's an active farmer, and also he has filed to represent Preston County as the next delegate from that area. Would you please make them feel welcome?
Are there further introductions? Reports of standing committees.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 2631, provide for West Virginia DNR officers to be able to work off-duty. House Bill 4048, West Virginia Keep, Bear, and Drive with Arms Act. House Bill 4097 to prohibit non-public funding sources for election administration and related expenses without prior written approval by the State Election Commission, and House Bill 4299 to prohibit the international interference with election processes and creating associated criminal penalties, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 2817, Donated Drug Repository Program, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4257, require visitation immediately following a procedure in a healthcare facility, and reports back a committee substitute therefore with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4263, prohibit the practice of white bagging, and reports back a committee substitute therefore with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4340 relating to maximizing the opportunity to recover anatomical gifts for the purpose of transplantation, therapy, research, or education, and reports the same back with amendment with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, but that it first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The report will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4324 to update collaborative pharmacy practice agreements, and reports back a committee substitute therefore with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4173 authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to feeding of untreated garbage to swine. House Bill 4174 authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to commercial feed. House Bill 4175 authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to enrichment of flour and bread law regulations. House Bill 4176 authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to fruits and vegetables certification of potatoes for seedling purposes. House Bill 4177 authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to the Fresh Food Act. House Bill 4178 authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to auctioneers. House Bill 4179, authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to hemp products. House Bill 4180, authorizing the Commissioner of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to livestock care standards. House Bill 4181, authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to the Rural Rehabilitation Program. House Bill 4182, authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to the Farm to Food Bank tax credit. House Bill 4183, authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to farmers markets. House Bill 4184, authorizing the Department of Agriculture to promulgate a legislative rule relating to seed certification. And House Bill 4193, authorizing the Dangerous Wild Animal Board to promulgate a legislative rule relating to dangerous wild animal, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, but that they first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
That report will be received, and those bills will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there further reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, executive messages, Senate messages?
The Clerk of the Senate reports. The Clerk of the Senate announces that the Senate has passed Senate Bill 4, repealing ban on construction of nuclear power plants.
That message will be received. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the bill be taken up for immediate consideration and dispense with the committee reference.
Are there objections? No objections are heard. The committee reference be dispensed with. That bill will be placed on the calendar. Further Senate messages? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 27, extending an invitation to His Excellency the Governor to deliver an address to the Legislature and raising a joint assembly therefor.
Lady in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the committee reference be dispensed with and the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration and put upon its adoption.
Are there objections? There are no objections. The clerk will please report the resolution.
House Concurrent Resolution 27, extending an invitation to His Excellency the Governor to deliver an address to the Legislature and raising a joint assembly therefor.
Lady in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to explain the resolution in lieu of having it read.
Lady in the 49th, ask unanimous consent to explain the resolution in lieu of having it read. Are there objections? There are no objections.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The resolution invites the Governor to give the State of the State address tomorrow evening and allows the Speaker to form a committee of 3 to escort the Governor into the chamber.
The question before the House is the adoption of the resolution. Is there debate on the resolution? If not, those in favor of adoption of the resolution will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. Chair declares the resolution adopted. On this committee, the chair appoints the gentleman from the 12th, Delegate Westfall, the lady from the 41st, Delegate Tully, the gentleman from the 34th, Delegate Boggs. Clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Are there further resolutions?
House Concurrent Resolution 28, Captain Billy Jake Smith Memorial Bridge.
Resolution be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Rules. Are there further resolutions, petitions, motions, bills introduced?
House Bill 4396, reducing federal adjusted gross income relating to tolls for travel on West Virginia toll roads paid electronically.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system.
The lady in the 49th asks unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4252 to reduce copay cap on insulin and devices.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman from the 17th, Delegate Rohrbach, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before us today, we have House Bill 4252 to reduce copay cap on insulin and devices. The purpose of this bill is to reduce insurance cost sharing, otherwise known as copayment, by establishing the maximum a patient will be required to pay. Insulin is reduced from $100 to $35 for a 30-day supply. If this chamber remembers, we did the $100 in the last session. Cost sharing for devices is capped at $100 for a 30-day supply. Cost sharing for insulin pumps may not exceed $250 and limited to one insulin pump purchase every 2 years. A prescription is not required to obtain a blood testing kit for ketones. A ketone test can warn a person of a serious diabetic complication called diabetic ketoacidosis. That's a summary of the bill, Mr. Speaker. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Lady number 51st, Doug Fleshauer is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to echo what the lady from Fayette said in her prayer today about being thankful. I am so thankful for this bill because it will truly save lives. And I want to tell, since there are so many new members, I want to tell a little bit of how this bill came to be, because it has kind of it's only been a couple years, but it has a longer history. The former chair of Health's name was Jordan Hill, and in 2019, we had looked at some bills during interims, and one of them had to do with emergency prescriptions. And I remember sitting beside Rick Atkinson, who was sitting up there last year, former delegate, and we were looking at this bill, and it said that you could get a 90-day supply of prescriptions that you needed, like blood pressure. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a good idea. And the chairman said, does anybody want to sponsor these? And we said yes. And so Rick and I were both sponsors, as was Chair Hill. And then after the session ended, I got a call from a constituent who said, thank you for sponsoring Kevin's Law. And I'm like, who's Kevin? And it turns out Kevin was a young man who lived in Ohio who had diabetes. And this bill was originally drafted, and his father pushed it in Oregon and all over I have chills, all over the country, because he died when his doctor was not available New Year's Eve. They found him because if you're type 1 diabetic, you are totally dependent on insulin. And he was on his own, and this was really happening a lot to 28, 29-year-old people with type 1 diabetes that were trying to support themselves and wanting, not wanting to depend on their parents. I remember the newspaper article because it said that his kitchen door was open and there was snow blowing in onto him, and he was on the kitchen floor. So that was pretty motivating, and I am really proud. So the first bill was 25, in 1919 was 2524. The next one was 4543, and that was a lot tougher sell. And we really, there were people with diabetes, and especially moms with children with diabetes all over the state, and the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, people from all over were saying this is really needed, because what I didn't know, and my constituent told me, was that insulin had become much more expensive. I didn't know the history of insulin. Insulin was discovered, or how to replace it in the human body was discovered 100 years ago this year in Canada. And the three gentlemen who figured out how to do that won the Nobel Prize. And they gave away the patent rights for $1 because they said nobody should profit off of a life-saving medication. Well, something turned around, and so people in Beckley and people in Elkins and people in Huntington were paying $600 as a copay. And I'm like, copay? I think of a copay as 15, 20, maybe up to 30 now in lots of insurance policies. And we're talking about people with insurance. And people were desperate, with a regular, normal income and insurance. They could not pay for this. We went to Canada, and one of the people that came with us was a type 2 diabetic whose husband had good insurance. He worked in the coal industry, and they blew their retirement savings, and she was able to get much cheaper insulin in Canada. Well, that bill passed, and I'll never forget, it was triple referenced, but it passed, and it passed with enthusiasm. I'll never forget Chairman Schott saying, "This is truly life-saving." And so then we come to this year. We introduced a bill talking about insulin pumps, and that was also something that I wasn't really familiar with before, the need for continuous glucose monitoring and insulin pumps. There haven't been very many big changes in insulin in the last couple of decades in the drug, but there have been wonderful changes in the devices that can help people live longer lives. When I was in college, a friend of mine was a camp counselor at a camp for diabetics, and she told me that most of the kids died when they were teenagers. Now, people with diabetes can live till their 70s, 80s with especially an insulin pump, which automatically monitors the amount of insulin they receive. They're just amazing. But they cost or maybe the lowest I saw was $2,500 to $7,500. Most insurance cover them. But this bill would be so wonderful. I talked to one of my constituents who got type 1 diabetes from a virus. I thought it was only hereditary, and there are 4 healthcare providers on this bill, which really I'm very thankful for also. But she said she just couldn't afford to get an insulin pump. And one of my relatives has one. And they're just amazing, because the thing about type 1 diabetics, their insulin can spike up and down. And if they get a cold, one young man from Huntington told us, and his mother, she's type 1, he's type 1, they'd have to go to the hospital just if they had a cold. So I think this bill is very wonderful. I'm so grateful to the chair for putting it on early, and for the majority leader for being a sponsor, and for the speaker for whatever he does in the background. And I just want to read you a Facebook message that I got. A good friend, diabetic, relocated from Tennessee to Fairmont for work while waiting 3 months for her insurance to kick in for insulin pump. One morning, she failed to wake up. A stupid loss and waste of a brilliant woman. This really is life-saving. She didn't know she could have gotten an emergency prescription, but she needed a pump. And with passage, if we can convince the Senate to do this as well, we can really save lives. So I would appreciate your support, and thank you for your patience in listening to this, but this wasn't something I knew very much about. We have the highest death rate from diabetes in the whole country. Let's do something about it and make this state a better place for all of our citizens. Thank you.
Gentleman 27th, I got Ellington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Don't know if I really have to do this, but a Rule 49, I have a child with type 1 diabetes. I figure I'm in a class, but...
Yes, it would be the ruling of the chair. The gentleman is a member of a class of greater than 5 individuals and therefore is directed to vote.
Okay, and if I may speak to it, Bill?
Yes, the gentleman is recognized.
This is something that if during my tenure as health chair, I would have probably moved and gotten done, so I fully support it and hope the rest of you will too.
The gentleman 10th, I got Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman yield?
Gladly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of years ago, we did a bill that reduced the cost of insulin, and I believe that bill pertained only to PEIA and matters from within the state. Is that correct?
We did do a bill. I think it was all insurance, but the difference is that it was only insulin. It didn't recover any of the devices or any of the pumps, and it was at $100. That was the last bill.
Okay. This bill, is this only aimed at state mandated programs, or can we do we include federal programs and private insurances in this bill as well?
It's all insurance. Now, federal insurance, i.e. Medicaid, does not have copays or deductibles. Now, if you have a Part D plan through Medicare, that usually is already lower copays and deductibles than what we have, but I would assume it would apply there, not so much for the pumps, because pumps are mostly in children, but it applies to all insurance.
Mr. Chairman, I am a type 2 diabetic, and I do take insulin. And just for the record, I renewed my my prescription a couple of weeks ago. My copay was over $800. Is this bill going to help that for me or for other people that are in the same situation that I'm in?
Yes.
It is?
That's the way we take it if you've got insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the effort in this bill, and thank you for answering my questions. Mr. Speaker, since I am a type 2 diabetic and this bill could benefit me, I would request Rule 49.
Yes, it would be the ruling of the chair that the gentleman would belong to a class of greater than 5 individuals and should be directed to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman to 16th, Douglas Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I rise in support of the bill. I think it's great work, and I know that there's been bipartisan support for these efforts. But the gentlelady from the 51st mentioned something very interesting, and that is that the reason why it's so inexpensive in Canada is that there's no patent protection for it in Canada. And make no mistake about this, this is going to cost both the state and ultimately anyone who's paying premiums a little additional dollars. It's going to. There's no question about that, because we're not actually reducing the cost of the insulin itself. We're reducing what an individual must pay at the time of receiving it in a copay. And I think that's a worthwhile thing to do, and I do in fact support the bill. But I'd like to take this opportunity very publicly to state that our federal representatives may wish to take a look at the patent protection for prescriptions, and if in any other country in this world a prescription is made available at a lower price than right here in the United States of America, they should lose patent protection in the United States of America. You can continue with the free market, and if everybody else is paying just as much as we are, let's continue to have these great medications developed and all those sorts of things, but there's no reason that someone should make their money in the United States of America off of research conducted by the United States of America and our people, and then offer a drug at a less expensive price in another country. And so, Mr. Speaker, I do urge support of the bill, but I think that there's problems here that we can't solve at the state legislative level. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 26, Douglas Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to obviously offer my support for this bill. A couple of years ago, when we were passing the insulin bill, I told a story of a young lady we met at the Tamarack when we were hosting the different PEIA meetings around the state. And the lady asked me to step out into the hallway, and she'd brought with her one of these brown paper bags that you'd get at the shopping stores back in the day. And it was sort of rolled up, but it was, I guess, that much full. And she just poured it out on the table. And it was a series of hoses and tubes. And I asked her, I said, "What is that?" And she showed me that was the tubes that her daughter would connect to her insulin pump, and how expensive they were to her, and how she had to literally, at times make the choice between paying the bills and getting those tubes. And at the time, it was my fervent hope that the insulin bill would include all the necessary pieces of equipment that goes with the pumps. I still have her email. I'm going to pull it up here, and I can't wait to send her an email letting her know that we're going to pass this bill today. And I thank all of my colleagues, and let's get this done. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Lady in the 51st, Sergeant Walker is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support this piece of legislation, as I am a type 2 diabetic. And because of the financial strain in getting your insulin and your supplies, last session, I took my insulin blindly because I couldn't afford the strips. or I couldn't afford the needles to see what my glucose levels are. And we have many West Virginians that are facing this every day. But I stand before you today saying that I worked really hard and I changed my eating habits. And as of right now, I'm not on insulin. And I don't have that financial burden. But many folks do. And so what are you telling people today is that we support health care and we support affordable health care. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman at 36, Second Barrick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just want to speak to the bill here, and I just want to speak in support of this measure. My late wife had diabetes, and I just want to point out that it was very tough measuring and keeping her insulin levels, blood sugar levels at a constant rate. She got one of the pumps, and it just changed her life. And just if anyone with diabetes has an opportunity to get one of these pumps, it really makes a big difference in their life. If we can lower the cost of that, it would be great. And then even my dog had diabetes, and while he didn't qualify for the pump, I had to give him shots every day. And the price between different stores was so drastic. I found a place that you could get a vial in the 20s, but some of them were in the $70 to $80 range, so much more expensive. So even for that, it makes a big difference. So again, I support this measure, and thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further debate on the bill? Does the gentleman wish to close debate on the bill?
Yes.
Gentleman 17th, Dr. Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I think this bill is going to pass. Hope it passes unanimously. I do need to explain a bit exactly the importance of this bill as opposed to last year's bill. Is this now includes devices which are key to diabetes, because the old days are gone. We now have continuous glucose monitors. You can now get your glucose level on your phone. It's very common, but obviously technology has a cost. And as the cost has went up on pumps, continuous glucose monitors, the old days where you just had the stylets and the alcohol pads and the glucometer, that's kind of old school now. So this is an attempt to particularly help our families, because our families are, struggling with these costs for children with type 1 diabetes, which is where the pumps are most prevalent. Now, I do want to, the gentleman from the 10th, I do want to, maybe I didn't make that quite clear. Obviously, Medicare is a federal program. To the extent you would have private insurance, this would apply. But obviously, Medicaid and Medicare are federal programs. I do want to clear that up. But this bill is an attempt to help our families in West Virginia with one of the main health problems in West Virginia, and urge passage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 94 ayes, 3 nays, and 3 members absent. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4252 to reduce copay cap on insulin and devices.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4276, permit WVU to create a Parkinson's disease registry.
Are there objections to having this bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. The gentleman to 17th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. House Bill 4276. This bill creates a Parkinson's disease registry at West Virginia University. All patients diagnosed with Parkinson's disease or related Parkinsonisms shall be provided an oral and written notice regarding the collection of information and patient data on Parkinson's disease. Patients who do not wish to participate in the collection of data for purposes of research in this registry shall affirmatively opt out in writing after an opportunity to review the documents and ask questions. A patient may not be forced to participate in the registry. An advisory committee is established to develop and implement the registry. West Virginia University may enter into agreements to furnish data collected in this registry to other registries of similar nature. To ensure privacy, West Virginia University shall implement a coding system that removes any identifying information about the patient. The confidential information shall not be available for subpoena, shall not be disclosed, discoverable, or compelled to be produced in any civil, criminal, or administrative or other proceeding. That's a summary of the bill. Mr. Speaker, I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? Gentleman to the 29th, Douglas Steele.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the chairman yield?
Gladly.
Will this information be provided to any federal agencies or to do with health or diseases or anything like that?
That would be under the intent of the bill if they wanted it shared as what's our incidence of Parkinson's disease? What we're really trying to get a handle on through the Blanche Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute is what is the incidence and prevalence of neurodegenerative diseases in the state of West Virginia.
And Parkinson's would be considered a mental disease or defect, right?
No, I'll take exception there. It would be considered a neurodegenerative disease where the actual cellularity of the synapses in your brain are kind of going haywire, but I don't think it would be a psychiatric disease by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. And the prohibition against subpoena power would only apply to state courts. A federal court could grant a subpoena, correct? I mean, we couldn't prevent the federal government, like a federal court, from subpoenaing something by state law.
Under instruction of counsel, that would be correct, but we could redact information before the subpoena.
What if the district court compelled an unredacted version?
District federal court?
Yes.
Counsel says since that's protected health information under HIPAA, that would be sealed information.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Lady in the 49th, Douglas Summers.
Thank you. Would the chairman yield for a question?
Gladly.
The way I understood this in committee, it's purely optional. If you don't want to participate in this program, you can opt out. The testimony we heard from one of the people, one of the proponents said that most people with Parkinson's will be inclined to participate because it's a way to help them get a cure for the disease. But optional, you can opt out of the program.
Gentlelady would be correct.
Okay.
Lady in the 41st, Dr. Tully is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to speak on the bill, and I promise to be brief.
The lady's recognized.
Thank you, sir. If you ever wonder what we do down here makes a difference in the everyday lives of people, the answer to that question is yes. We had this bill in committee last Thursday, and when I went home on Friday afternoon, I stopped at the post office and ran into a constituent who promptly approached me and explained, and this wasn't one of the flashy bills, wasn't one of the things that might end up in a colleague's newspaper or on somebody's campaign mailer. This is just a very, very basic bill that a lot of people didn't know about. And she was very, very thankful. Her husband has Parkinson's, and thanked me for supporting it in committee, and I do intend to support it here on the floor. So something so simple can make a difference in someone's life, so I do appreciate it. I hope everybody will vote yes on this.
Is there further debate on the bill? Does the gentleman wish to close debate on the bill? Gentleman from the 17th, Douglas Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very brief. But I think the impetus for this bill is, and the members may not appreciate all of this, we actually, in Morgantown, have one of the world-renowned centers for the study and treatment of neurodegenerative diseases. Some of the work they're doing there is really, people are coming from all over the world. And so we have an asset of an unbelievable nature in this state. And this is an attempt for them to help serve the state, the country, and the world. This bill just pertains to our state, since that's our charge here in this legislature. But I'm fully supportive of this bill and fully supportive of the efforts that are going on for the treatment of not just Parkinson's, but all neurodegenerative diseases at our center in Morgantown. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 91 ayes, 6 nays, and 3 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4276, permit WVU to create a Parkinson's disease registry.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
The question before the House is the motion that the bill take effect from passage. Those in favor of the motion will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On that question, there were 93 ayes, 4 nays, and 3 members absent. 2/3 of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares that bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Are there further bills on third reading? Bills on second reading? Bills on first reading?
House Bill 2562, relating to litter control.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 2882, relating to repealing a ban on construction of nuclear power plants.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4024, creating a cosmetology apprentice program that allows companies to train employees for practical real-world experience.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4266, relating to limited liability companies.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4288, relating to expanding the practice of auricular detox to professions approved by the Acupuncturist Board.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4291, relating to authorizing legislative rules regarding higher education.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4301, reforming membership requirements of Huntington Park and Recreation District Board.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4308, authorizing disclosure of juvenile information to Crime Victims Compensation Fund for investigation and award of benefits.
The bill will be advanced. Further bills on first reading, leaves of absence. Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, delegates Brown, Pack, and Pritt.
Are there objections to leaves being granted? The chair hears no objections. Leaves should be granted. Introductions. Lady from 32nd, Doug Kessinger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We now have the doctor of the day in the chamber, and so if everybody would make Dr. Rutman de Segus welcome.
Further introductions. Miscellaneous business. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, the House stand in adjournment until 11 a.m. Thursday, January 27th.
Are there announcements?
Yes.
Yes, Lady from the 49th.
Thank you. Your Committee on Rules will meet at 10:45 tomorrow morning behind the chamber.
Gentleman of the 10th, Doug Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Finance will be conducting budget hearings this afternoon at 3 o'clock for the budget presentations from the Department of Administration and the Department of Transportation. These hearings will take place in the House Finance Committee room. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman of the 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Judiciary will meet today at 3 p.m. in the committee meeting room. The agenda has been posted.
Gentleman of the 35th, Doug Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And following floor session, the Tech Caucus will have our first meeting. Lunch is already there, so I can assure you there will be food. We'll have a presentation by Data Robot, which is a artificial intelligence optimization company that's already active in West Virginia and growing. Encourage everybody to attend if you have time. Thank you. In the House Judiciary room.
That was the House Judiciary Room?
It is.
Gentleman 51st, Douglas Statler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 4 p.m. in the Education Committee Room. The agenda is posted. The Republican members of the Education Committee will caucus in the chairman's office at 3, and the Democratic members will caucus with the chairman at 3:45.
Gentleman 15th, Douglas Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee Room today. And also to correct some confusion, yesterday with a public hearing that was announced for Friday, the meeting will be at 10 a.m. or the conclusion of the floor session. That's on House Bill 2882. So that's Friday at 10 a.m. or on the conclusion of House floor session, whichever one's later.
Gentleman 10th, Douglas Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing will meet tomorrow, January 27th at 1 p.m. in the Judiciary Committee Room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 48th, Douglas Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reminder that your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services will meet today at 1 p.m. in the House Education Committee Room.
The gentleman 7th, Douglas Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Workforce Development will meet today at 1 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee Room. And additionally, Republican members will caucus at 12:45 in the Chairman's office, room 203 over in the East Wing. Thank you.
Gentleman 16th, Douglas Mann.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder, the Small Business Economic Development and Entrepreneurship Committee will meet today at 1 o'clock in the Judiciary Room. Thank you.
Gentleman 15th, Douglas Foster.
Thank you. And your Government Organization Committee Republican members will meet in the chairman's office 15 minutes prior to our 3 o'clock meeting.
Gentleman 2nd, Douglas DeSerio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The AFL-CIO will have their House Labor Caucus today, immediately following floor session in House Gov Org, and lunch will be provided. Thank you, sir.
Gentleman 13th, Douglas Pinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is Foster Care Day at the State Capitol, and as a result of that, we will be inviting foster parents and foster children, those that would like to participate, to a meeting at 10 a.m. in the House Gov Org room at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and the opportunity to hear from foster families, opportunity to hear about the current state of our foster system. If delegates have individuals in their communities who would like to participate, this would be a wonderful opportunity for you to reach out to foster parents, foster families, and invite them to the Capitol tomorrow to participate in Foster Care Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 32nd, Douglas Fast.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. In addition to the Judiciary Committee meeting today, the Judiciary Committee will also meet tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Committee meeting room. The agenda will be posted.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question is on the motion that the House stand adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Those in favor will please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow.